I'm Owen Bigland. This is the Inside Edge video blog. Okay, homes are not for investors. They're for people to live in. And that's a pretty popular headline here that you've been seeing in the news the last couple of years. Of course, the socialist governments like the NDP love to push this, create some anger and some animosity towards homeowners and especially investors, the greedy landlords, which they've had a war on here for the past 5 years. You know, it's a real mess right now. What the NDP and David Eby doesn't tell you, of course, though, with homes are to live in and investors, shouldn't be buying and renting homes or speculating on real estate. Well, first off, investors aren't speculators. Learn the difference between the two. I've talked a lot about that in my book. I've done many blogs, probably 20 over the last 12 years on the difference between investors and speculators. Most people that buy real estate to put a tenant in and rent out are investors. They're going to buy that condo or buy that detached home or that duplex, put tenants in them, and then keep them for long periods of time, 10, 15, 20, 30 years. Avoid the friction costs, because in Canada, and especially in British Columbia, they make it very difficult for anyone to be a speculator here, with the PTT on the way in, the GST, the empty homes tax, the capital gains tax, conveyancing charges, commissions to buy and sell. It's incredibly expensive to flip homes here. Now, of course, the NDP also put in a flipping tax, which was just smoke and mirrors, of course, because there is no flipping or speculating here. We've already got the greatest flipping tax known to man, which is the PTT and the capital gains tax. But what a lot of people don't understand here when it comes to investors, there was been a bunch of headlines here about homes are to live in, not to invest in. And there were stats, 25, 30, 40% of pre-sale buyers, which you guys know I do very little work in pre-sale anyways, but 30, 35, 40%, as much as 40% are investors. And that this is all wrong. These pre-sales should be for end users only. Well, what they don't understand is that if it wasn't for the investor, none of these high-rise condominium towers would ever be built. Developers have to have a certain number of investor buyers before that project can go through. And I think in most cases it's probably at least 20, but it could be as high as 40% on certain projects. Well, what people don't understand is if it wasn't for that investor buyer, we wouldn't have these condos in downtown Vancouver or Brentwood or Metrotown. That's what the developer depends on. They need to sell 60, 70% of the condos, of which 30 or 40% of that might be made up with investors, to get the development push forward, get the financing in place so that they can build the condo. The other thing, of course, is that investors and the people that are buying condos to rent out provide a stepping stone for people to get into housing after they move out of their parents' house or graduate from school. Pretty difficult for people right out of school to be able to buy a $600,000 condo. They're going to, partner up with a friend or a girlfriend and rent a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom condo for the next couple of years, 2-3 years, however long it takes, until they can save their down payment and get into home ownership. I've done 50, 60 videos on how it should be your first step financially is to get into home ownership. Nothing wrong with renting in the short term, especially if you just move to a city or while you're saving for your down payment, but you don't want to become a lifetime renter. So these investors provide an excellent service. It's a stepping stone between getting into your first condo and buying your first place. But don't drink the socialist Kool-Aid on this, folks, I guess is what I'm telling you. Yes, a lot of those pre-sale condos are bought by investors, but they provide a pretty valuable service. As I say, most of these condos wouldn't be built if it wasn't for a 20 or 25% investor purchase base there. Just wouldn't get built. Final thing, I talked about it last time. As we move into the new year now, I think if you're a buyer right now, if you're pre-qualified, you've got a realtor, you're looking at homes, you should be a buyer here. I do think that 2024 is going to be a upturn in the market. I think prices are going to start slowly edging up again. Probably not going to have to be. Lately, we haven't had to get into the crazy bidding wars like we did this past spring, and for a lot of the times, especially on good quality one beds. Probably a pretty good time to be a buyer. Lock in a 1 or 2 year fixed and you're going to do fine. And keep the thing. Keep the condo, pay it down, fix it up if you have to, make it your own, but get out of that renter treadmill. But again, I've done lots of blogs. I'll continue to do more blogs on the landlord and investing in real estate and the service that they provide. But it really is a bit of a quagmire that we've got here right now. That homes are for people and not investors. Well, these developers, none of these buildings would get built without an investor. And then to make things worse with our current government climate here, socialist climate, they have a war on against developers or against investors. And that's why if you look around in downtown Vancouver now, nothing is getting built. There's nothing coming on the horizon here, folks. The only cranes that are going up currently that I've been blogging about were going to be strata condos, have now been shifted to market rental buildings. And as I've said before all along, that's great. We need more rental stock in this city. We have not built very much new rental stock in the last 3 decades, a little bit here and there. But keep in mind, these are market rentals. So in the West End here where I live, there's 2 towers getting ready to start construction on. Earlier in 2024, they're going to start. These are going to be, at the current rates, about $3,100 for a small 1-bedroom and up. So these are market rental. And as I said, nothing wrong with building more rental, but the socialist governments are just kind of enabling you. They're making it a little easier to keep you in that renter quicksand. And be careful. Don't stay in that quicksand very long, because if you stay too long, you're never going to get out. But the other real killer is that the media never talks about, and the NDP certainly will never talk about, is that nothing wrong with building more rental stock, but it's coming at a cost of building more strata. And this is where it's going to get ugly in another 5 or 10 years. It's what I call that coiled spring effect. Population continues to grow, more people moving into the city, so demand keeps going up, but nothing is getting built. We'll give you some rental stock to keep you on that rental quicksand, but to get into home ownership is going to be more and more difficult. So all it's going to do is keep the current value, what you can currently buy at $1,000, $1,100 a square foot, is going to look pretty good in 10 years. And then the little bit they are building in downtown Vancouver is luxury, ultra luxury condos, starting at about $1,800 to $2,000 a square foot, up to over $3,500 a square foot. You can still buy a good quality, I'm selling them every month, good quality older condo in the West End for about $1,000 a square foot. That's not going to last. 10 years from now, you will not be buying those condos at $1,000 a square foot. That I can guarantee you. I do have a crystal ball on that. I'm Owen Bigland. As always, thanks for watching. See you next week.